34. Joash was 8 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 31 years. He did what was right in the eyes of the Lord, and walked in the ways of his father David, not turning aside to the right or to the left. In the 8th year of his reign, while he was still young, he began to seek the God of his father David. In this 12th year, he began to purge Judah and Jerusalem of his high places. Asherah pole, carved idols, and cast images. Under his direction, the altar of the bells were torn down. He cut to pieces the incense altar that was above them, and smashed the Asherah pole, the idols, and the images. This he broke the idols pieces and scattered over the graves and those who had sacrificed to them. He burned the bones of the priests of the altar, and so he purged Judah and Jerusalem. In the towns of Manasseh, Ephraim, and Simeon, as far as Naphtali, and in the ruins around them. He tore down the altar and the Asherah pole, and crushed the idols to power, and cut to pieces all the incense altar throughout Israel. Then he went back to Jerusalem. In the 18th year of Joash's reign, to purify the land and the temple, he sent Shaphan the son of Azaliah and Mesa the ruler of the city, with Joah son of Joash the recorder, to repair the temple of the Lord his God. They went to Hilkiah the high priest and gave him the money that had been brought into the temple of the Lord, which the Levites who were the doorkeepers had collected them to the people of Manasseh, Ephraim, and the entire remnant of Israel, and from all the people of Judah and Benjamin and inhabitants of Jerusalem. Then they entrusted it to the men appointed to supervise the work on the Lord's temple. These men paid the workers who repaired and restored the temple. They also gave money to the carpenters and builders to purchase dressed stones, and then timber for joists and beams for the building that the king of Judah had allowed to fall into ruin. The men did the work faithfully. Over them to direct them were Jetted and Obadiah. Levites descended from Merari, and Jemches and Molochus descended from Kohath. The Levites, all who were skilled in playing musical instruments, had charge of labors and supervised all the work from job to job. Some of the Levites were secretaries, scribes, and doorkeepers. While they were bringing out the money that had been taken into the temple of the Lord, Hilkiah the priest found the book of the law of the Lord that had been given to Moses. Hilkiah said to Shaphan the secretary, "I have found the book of the law in the temple of the Lord." He gave it to Shaphan. Then Shaphan took the book to the king and reported to him, "Your officers are doing everything that has been committed to them. They had paid out the money that was in the temple of the Lord and had entrusted it to the supervisors and workers." Then Shaphan the secretary informed the king, "Hilkiah the priest has been given me a book." And Shaphan read from it in the presence of the king. When the king heard the words of the law, he tore his robe. He gave these orders to Hilkiah, son of Shaphan, Abdon son of Micaiah, Shaphan the secretary, and Asher the king's attendants. "Go and inquire the Lord permitted in Israel and Judah about what is written in this book and has been bound. Great is the Lord's anger that is poured out on us, because our fathers had not kept the word of the Lord. They have not acted in accordance with all that is written in this book." Hilkiah and those the king had sent with him went to speak to the prophet Hudai, who was the wife of Shema, son of Tukes, and the son of Harris, keeper of the wardrobe. She lived in Jerusalem in the 2nd district. She said to them, "This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. Tell the man who sent you to me, this is what the Lord says. I am going to bring disaster on this place and its people. All the curses written in the book that has been read in this presence of the king of Judah, because they had forsaken me and burned incense to other gods and provoked me to anger by all that their hands have made, my anger will be poured out on this place and will not be quenched. Tell the king of Judah, who sent you to inquire the Lord, this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says concerning the word you heard. Because your heart was responsible and you humbled yourself before God when you heard that what he spoke against this place and his people, and because you humbled yourself before me and tore your robe and wept in my presence, I have heard you, declares the Lord. And now I will gather you to your fathers, and you will be buried in peace. Your eyes will not see all the disaster I am going to bring on this place and on those who live here." So they took her answer back to the king. Then the king called together all the elders of Judah and Jerusalem. He went up to the temple of the Lord with the men of Judah, the people of Jerusalem, the priests and the Levites, all the people from the least of the greatest. He read in their hearing all the words of the book of their hearing convenient, which had been found in the temple of the Lord. The king stood by their pillars and renewed the convenient that presents the Lord, to follow the Lord and keep in commands, regulations and decrees with all his heart and all his soul, and to obey the word of the convenient written in this book. Then he had everyone in Jerusalem and Benjamin pledged themselves to it. The people of Jerusalem did this in accordance with the convenient of the God of their fathers. Joshua removed all the disable idols from all the territory belonging to the Israelites, and he had all who were present in the Israel serve the Lord their God. As long as he lived, they did not fail to follow the Lord, the God of their fathers. 35. Joshua celebrated the Passover of the Lord in Jerusalem, and the Passover lamb was slaughtered the 14th day of the first month. He appointed the priests of their duties and encouraged them in the service of the Lord's temple. He said to the Levites, who instructed all Israel who had been consecrated to the Lord, "Put the sacred ark in the temple that Solomon son of David, king of Israel, built. It is not to be carried away about on your shoulder. Now serve the Lord your God and his people Israel. Prepare yourselves by family in the division, according to the directions written by David, king of Israel, and by his son Solomon. Stand in the holy place with a group of Levites for each subdivision of the families of your fellow countrymen and lay people. Slaughter the Passover lambs. Consecrate yourselves and pray that the lambs for the fellow countrymen, doing what the Lord commanded through Moses. Just provided for all the lay people who were there a total of 30,000 sheep and goats for the Passover offerings, and also 3,000 cattle, all the king's own possessions. His officers also contributed volunteers to the people and priests and Levites. Hilkiah, Jacques, and Jeros, and the master of God's temple, gave the priests 2,600 Passover offerings and 300 cattle. Also Coned, along with Shimei and Nato, his brother, and Hashael and Joas, the leaders of the Levites, provided 5,000 Passover offerings and 500 head of the cattle for the Levites. The service was arranged, and the priests stood in their place with the Levites in their division as the king had ordered. The Passover lambs were slaughtered, and the priests sprinkled the blood handed to them. While the Levites skinned the animals, they set aside the burnt offering to give them to the division of the families of the people to offer the Lord, as it is written in the books of Moses. They did what was same in the cattle. They roasted the Passover animals over the fire as prescribed, and bore the holy offerings in pots, caldrons, and pans, and served them quickly to all the people. After this, they make preparation for themselves and for the priest, because the priests, the descendants of Aaron, were sacrificing the burnt offerings and the fat portion until high maintenance. So the Levites made preparation for themselves and for the Aaronic priest. The musicians, the descendants of Asaph, were in the place prescribed by David. Asaph, Herman, and Jeduthun, the king's seer. The gatekeepers at each gate did not need to leave their post, because their fellow Levites made the preparation for them. So at the time the entire service of the Lord was carried out for the celebration of the Passover, of offering of burnt offerings on the altar of God, as King Joas had ordered. The Levites who were present celebrated the Passover at the time and observed the feast of unleavened bread for 7 days. The Passover had not been observed like this in Israel since the day of the prophet Samuel, and none of the king of Israel had ever celebrated of the king of Israel had in the Passover did Joas, with the priests, the Levites, and all Judah and Israel who were there with the people of Jerusalem. This Passover was celebrated in the 18th year of Joas' reign. After all this, when Joas had sent the temple in order, Necho king of Egypt went out to fight and Kermish in the Euphrates, and Joas marched out to meet him in battle. But Necho sent messengers to him, saying, "What quarrel is to be between you and me, O king of Judah? It is not you I am attacking at this time, but the house with which I am at war. God has told me to hurry, to stop opposing God who is with me, or he will destroy you." Joas, however, would not turn away from him, but discussed himself to engage from him in battle. He would not listen to what Necho had said to God's command, but went to fight in his plain of Megiddo. Archers shot the king of Judah, and he told his officers, "Take me away, I am badly wounded." So they took him out of his chariot, and him in the other chariot that had brought from Jerusalem, where he died. He was buried in the tombs of the fathers, and all Judah and Jerusalem mourned for him. Jeremiah composed the lament for Joas, and to this day all the men and women, singers commanded Joas in the laments. This became a tradition in Israel and are written in the laments. The other events of Joas' region and his acts of devotion, according to what is written in the laws of Moses, law of the Lord, all the events from beginning to end are written in the books of the king of Israel and Judah. 36. And the people of the land took Joas, son of Joas, and made him king in Jerusalem in the place of his father. Joas was 23 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 3 months. The king of Egypt dethroned him in Jerusalem, and imposed on Judah a levy of 100 talents of silver and a talent of gold. The king of Egypt made Eglon, a brother of Jos, king over Judah and Jerusalem, and changed Eglon's name to Jacobus. But Necho took Eglon's brother Jos and carried him up to Egypt. Jacobus was 25 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 11 years. He did evil in the eyes of the Lord his God. Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, attacked him and bound him with bronze shackles to take him to Babylon. Nebuchadnezzar also took Babylon articles from the temple of the Lord and put them into his temple there. The other events of Jacob's region, the disabled things he did, all that was found against him, are written in the books of the king of Israel and Judah. And Jacob his son succeeded him as king. Jacob was 18 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 3 months and 10 days. He did evil in the eyes of the Lord. In the spring, King Nebuchadnezzar sent for him and brought him to Babylon, together with articles and value from the temple of the Lord, and he made Jacobus the uncle, Zedekiah king over Judah and Jerusalem. Zedekiah was 21 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 11 years. He did evil in the eyes of the Lord his God, and did not humble himself before Jeremiah the prophet, who spoke the word of the Lord. He also rebelled against King Nebuchadnezzar, who had made to take out the oath in God's name. He became stiff-necked and hardened his heart and would not turn to the Lord, the God of Israel. Furthermore, all the leaders of priests and the people became more and more unfaithful, following all the deceitful practice of the nation and defiling the temple of the Lord, which he had consecrated in Jerusalem. The Lord, the God of their fathers, had sent word to them through his messengers again and again, because he had pity on his people and his dwelling place. But they mocked God's messengers, despised his work, and scoffed at his prophet until the word of the Lord was arose against his people, and there was no remedy. He brought up against them and the king of Babylon, who killed the young man with the sword in the sanctuary, and spared neither young man nor young woman, old man or aged. God handed all of them over to Nebuchadnezzar. He carried to Babylon all the articles from the treasuries of the Lord's temple and the treasuries of the king and of his officers. They set fire to God's temple to broke down the wall of Jerusalem. They burned all the palaces and destroyed everything of value there. He carried into exile to Babylon the remnant, who escaped from the sword, and they became servants to him and his sons until the king of Persia came to power. The land enjoyed the Sabbath rest. All the time of its discussion is rested, until the 70 year were completed in full fulfillment of the word of the Lord spoken by Jeremiah. In the first year of Croesus king of Paris, in order to fulfill the word of the Lord spoken by Jeremiah, the Lord moved the heart of Cyrus king of Paris to make a proclamation throughout his reign and to put it in writing. This is what Cyrus king of Paris said. The Lord, the God of heavens, has given me all the kingdom of the earth, and he has appointed me to build a temple for him in Jerusalem in Judah. Any one of his people among you, may the Lord his God be with you, and let him go up.